Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And it's now time for the final video of Heroes Jubilee Blitz number 38. Again, no EX characters allowed. Really cuts down on your team building options. You gotta do what you gotta do. Boss Battle 1 was an AoE turn limit, and Boss Battle 2 is a unlimited turn limit, technically, against Lumi, but she actually has an HP bar, and so you need to do as much possible overkill as you can within, a reasonable amount of turns. Technically, her turn bonus is turn 3, which there are no characters, no teams that are not EX that can do her damage cap by turn 3, because her damage cap is 600,000, and we just not these 5 stars ain't it. So if you can do 600k in 4 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns, 7 turns, then you're looking pretty good. And a lot of these teams will be able to do 600k in 8 turns, because that's when a lot of skills get awakened and you get extra effects. But the idea is to drop her down to like 1 HP, as little as you can, and then big time nuke her. And whatever damage you do over her HP is going to be your damage score. So if you do 1,000,000 damage to her with 1 HP left, your damage score will be 999,999. And that's how you're going to be scored, alongside the normal, turn bonus and remaining HP and all that. So you want to do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, Lumi does not have a lot of HP. So she will go down fairly quickly. So a lot of these teams that I'm going to show you don't have attack gear on, except for the nuking character. And also, like Boss Battle 1, it is a set starting hand of 6 greens turn 1, so it's very, very nice and opens up a lot of team building strategies for you. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so the first team we're going to use is my best scoring team. It's surprisingly, the Water 2.0 team. Shion is skill fused, and Hinata is 120 and skill fused, and attached to a 120 water Sohei. So, if they're not skill fused and not 120s, don't worry about it. You just won't do as much damage. But this team can do that 600,000 damage on turn 7, so we can, get a few points of it back. It's just that, can you actually do the perfect 600,000 overkill? Maybe not so much. But we've got Watermelon stacking, Light Raphael for the alt resistance down guaranteed pierce, Reamer is orb changing, Shion's buffing, Shuna is orb changing and buffing, and then the skill fusion for Hinata turns her very, very hard stacking alt buff ability into a much easier to do. It goes from like 5% of use to 15%, and it caps out at 60. So you'd only need to use it 4 times to, max her out here. So with luck, you can actually get all 4 of those stacks in. Alright, so starting out, again, it's a full 6-hand send of greens. So we will bring Hinata in, and we'll use her first stack of her alt buff. So that's an extra 15% right off the bat right there. Just like how Dark Lumi is, the 20% right off the bat. It's not as good, but it's still extra damage that you can take into account. If she's not skill fused, it's only 5% per use, and that takes literally forever, and it's so many points, and it's an awful skill. Its primary effect was, when she came out, was sealing crit resistance, because that Tempered Edge beatdown battle, or Tempered Edge against Shuna, has crit resistance, but we're on a crit focused team. So she's only, one of 2 characters that can do it still, between her and Fire Millum. Very old units. But, full hand of blues, get some stacks of Millum on her, and we'll just, keep on sending. We're sending her orbs last, because I don't want to kill her too quickly. None of the units have attack gear on, except for Sohei and Hinata, because, like I said, we've gone, 2 turns right here, and her health bar is already that low, that much lowered, so we're going to continue doing a lot of damage to her, and it's only going to get higher, because we're going to keep on stacking water attack. So I'm trying to be strategic in not stacking the water attack on everybody, that way we can send Light Raphael last, because he will do the least amount of damage, because the water stacks do literally nothing for him, until, we have to swap him out, and then this happens. So here, we'll keep Water Reamer in the back as much as possible. Hinata orbs will go first. That way they don't get that extra 200% because she'll do way too much damage, and you'll end up killing before you even get to the nuke. Because, look at that. Look at the damage we're doing her, and we're not, even remotely nicely buffed. So, it's just, you gotta play around. Thankfully, the blue orbs are not nerfed, unlike on Boss Battle 1, where they do get nerfed for a couple turns. So we are able to stack fully to our full potential, and now we just have to play around with who's getting what alts. Because all the other units don't have attack gear, you can send a few alts here and there. Ideally not with water units that have been stacked for 6 turns, because you might just accidentally kill. But it is what it is. So we'll do these stacks. We brought, again, Raphael in so we can send him last, because he will now definitely be the weakest attacking character on this team. So, and we'll get an alt for Xion, an alt for Hinata. We need to continue to keep using her alt buff as much as possible, because it does get fairly expensive. So here, we'll take that, 1 damage, easy, 30 damage, alright, whatever. So now, stack of Milim. Hinata's going to go away, because we don't need her again for another 2 turns or so. So we've used her alt buff skill quite a number of times now. We need to use it one more time at 85 points, so we do need to fit that in somewhere. So we're going to bring Water Rimuru in, and then between her and Shuna, we can convert those two. So we're going to do some quick math right here. So we can't really fit in the 85 point skill, so we're going to save that. So we're going to use the personal buff, because we can hold that in the back for the next 2 turns, and then just take her out. And we're going to pray that we have enough points to use that 85 skill next turn or the nuke turn, when we have a lot of extra points. So she's getting, she's not as low as she could be now, because we're not sending a lot of buffed orbs for her. So now we got 1 more stack of Milim. We've got 300 points. We're going to bring you in for, I believe, Raphael. After I think about it a little bit. After I continue to think about it. Okay. Out for Raphael. There we go. I thought about it. Get 1 stack, so then now she can go away. Remember, she still has the buff on her, so we don't want to leave her up front for anything. And then we can do this, and we can go ahead and just send this entire hand, including the alt, and that'll lower the HP down of Lumi to a very low point, and then we can go ahead and nuke next turn. So 24k, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now she's fairly low. If we try and send a fully buffed Hinata orb here, it's not going to work. And the reason we're nuking on turn 7 is, as you can see, maybe you didn't, but her defense left. Her extra defense skill dropped off. So now this is the best time to nuke, because she won't be nearly as tanky. It's just that, can you actually do 600k against her? So we'll do the 2 buffs from Xion. We have enough now to use the final stack of Hinata, and then we'll bring in Light Raphael and Shuna to use their buffs. Don't have to worry about Raphael's second skill, the stun. She has 100% stun resistance anyways, so it's not like it would do anything to begin with. But there we go. And now we can send 1 orb, just in case. We could have sent a few. And then we do 600,000 almost exactly. But because she wasn't at 1 HP, it's not actually counting. It's counting at 583. So there are, some ways to improve this. One, by getting her HP down to a nut tap of health, but at least Hinata can do the 600k. It's just that, are you going to be at that point? But that is my highest scoring team, and now let's move on to a different team that's stacking. Alright, the second team we're going to use is the Light 3.0 team. Certainly has more than enough power to do that 600,000 damage cap on turn 8. Because until turn 8, you can't stun Lumi. We have to bring Light Lumi to remove her stun resistance so that Raphael can stun, to begin with. So, and we can't do that literally until turn 8. It's part of her skill. So we have to go the full 8 turns on this team. Shuna is stacking Pierce Power and Stun Strike. The hero's here for the rewind, and the crit. Raphael's got his own skills. Milim is here for orb changing the attack buff, orb changing and light buff, orb changing and alt buff. So it's a very stacked team. Alright, so starting out again, turn 1, we're not going to rewind here. We could have. It doesn't really matter because we're going to turn 8 with this team. You know, extra stacks like that is better used for like a sweaty team that you're trying to nuke before turn 8. So we're going to do, I think, like 1,000,000 damage on the nuke or something, but only 600k of that actually matters. So trying to optimize, you know, our protection gauge and our stacks, not as important with this team. We do have, again, most of the attack gear off of this team because they do way too much damage. Thankfully, a lot of the, you know, both of Shuna's powers are not activated immediately. They have to have some other kind of initiator, unlike the water team that we showed where you're always getting water attack and it's always going higher and higher, so you're passively doing more and more. Not the case with this team. We're going to use the rewind now, though, and hope that, you know, on the rewind turn we can get a nice hand of blues. But you don't have to use it here. You could use it turn 1, you could use it turn 6 for all I care. You can just, as long as you take advantage of it, you can get some extra stacks in for funsy onesies. Maybe if your team isn't like 120 or across the board and they don't have good gear, maybe then you need the extra stacks to do that extra, you know, damage cap potential. But we get an okay hand here. We can bring Milim in, use her personal orb change, get 5 blues. It's not the end of the world, but it's certainly not 6. And it would have gotten us, you know, that nice 2 stacks of Shuna. Not that big of a deal, though. If we had left Lumi up front, we would have gotten it. Oh, we did get it anyways. Who do I have attached? I must have somebody. Oh, I probably have Light Rimuru or something. Or no, I probably have someone underneath Shuna. Probably Shion to give us that every 2 turns. But now we have kind of this sad conundrum. So orb change. We missed out on another orange. So again, this is not a fully optimized team, but it is what it is. We're just killing her pretty quickly. You know, we're on turn 4, halfway done. She's at under half HP, and we need an ult for Raphael, which we got. So now we just need to make sure we have enough points to actually nuke properly, because this team does have, you know, a 55-point skill or more per unit. So it's very point hungry. We need to make sure that we can actually take advantage of that. So here we can use the green orb change, boom, and then we can take Lumi out for Shuna, which will bring in that Milim, and now we can use Milim's orb change those, and then we just are left with 2 oranges. There we go. And then we're going to do probably a lot of damage to Lumi. We get 2 stacks of Shuna, though, which is nice, and we're going to get, you know, more and more points. We have now, it's turn 6, so we have 2 turns to go until we're ready to nuke, and we just have to keep her alive now, while having and maintaining the points necessary to do this. So, I mean, we have to bring Raphael in to get the stacks on, but it means that we're going to always have a unit with an ult up front. Or we just have Rimuru stay here. It doesn't really matter. We do have to bring Lumi in, though, for the orb change. We're not going to send the ult, though, because she would probably kill. And we don't want that. So we're going to have to live with 5 orbs here. And probably that's for the best, because if we were to send 6 2 turns in a row, probably actually would have died. So, not that big of a deal. We have enough points now. We have these 3 greens, so we don't have to do anything here. We're going to have enough points to nuke, you know, as long... Actually, do we? Yeah, I think I'm doing a calculator right now. So, I think I'm doing a calculator right now. Let's calculate. So Raphael comes in. Yep. Okay. There we go. So we sent the 3s. Turn 8 now. We can stun. We'll get 1 more stack of Shuna that we got off those green orbs. We have 326 points. So I think we're going to miss out on something here, which doesn't actually matter, because we're going to do, again, 1,000,000 damage. So I think we're going to forego the hero crit in favor of everything else. So alt buff, stun, and then alt resistance and pierce. And now we will go ahead and nuke. We don't have to send any orb because we would just kill her. And we do, what, 700,000? Never mind. We don't do 1,000,000, but we do over. because the cap is very clearly right there, 600,000. So we did an extra 148k, which we didn't need. But if you can do 600,000 on turn 8, great. Turn 7, even better. Any sooner than that, you're going to need to get some whale stats or some enchanted gear probably. But there's another team that can reliably do it, but in 8 turns now. Alright, the final team we're going to use, because this video is going to be pretty long. Well, I don't want to use 4 teams because it would be like a 30-minute video. But the Dark 2.0 team, you know, we've been using Veldora pretty much exclusively this entire Jubilee, because he's arguably the best protector that we have access to. And then we're going to run the Dark team. You know, Dark Shinsha has the Dark attack. We've got 2 orb changers here with, you know, dedicated ones, Isis and Aaron. And then we've got Dark Milim, who's going to be our DPS character, the alt buff, her own special convert, and then Rimuru with his crit damage buff. Now, this is another team where we attempt to nuke before turn 8, but also then that's more because she was going to die if we had sent any more orbs on turn 7 and not waiting until turn 8. But technically, Shinsha's skill gets better on turn 8. So if you can make Lumi live long enough to get to turn 8, you will do more damage than what I'm showing you here. It's just that I was just in the, you know, unfortunate side effect of doing too much too early. So we have 30 points, right? We don't have to orb change, so we can use the green buff from Isis and the crit debuff from Shinsha, which will help greens get even more points permanently, and will help us do a bit more damage when it's actually time to nuke. So we'll bring everybody out from the back. We're going to send Milim, again, last, because she's going to do way too much damage for how long this fight's going to go, and Aaron is our definite weakest character on this team. So we'll send her always last. Got a good hand right here. We can use Aaron's orb change and Isis and call it a day. We can probably bring Isis in for Rimuru, or we can just run it like this and use Aaron's first and then send her away. Either way, it works. But, you know, ideally, we'd probably want to reset Isis as well. We're going to get Milim out because I don't want to get an ult too quickly. And then we'll reset everybody, actually. That works out very well. So, boom, we used Veldora. Now we can reuse the crit resistance down with Shinsha, get extra points. So that's good. Remember, every skill that we use gives Veldora a 5% magic attack buff up to a cap of 70. So when you're nuking, you want to have that active and maxed out just to do the most amount of damage possible. And again, we're sending Aaron last because she is arguably the weakest character. But because every time you use Veldora, they get a magic buff, we will do more and more damage on this team, which is why, you know, I ran into that issue of having to nuke turn 7 instead of turn 8, because we are continually doing more and more and more and more. And it stacks a lot faster than, say, like the water team, because Milim is, what, 6 months earlier than this Veldora? So, you know, things didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but it still is fine. Good hand right there. We're going to use Veldora to reset now, use the crit resistance, and then we're going to bring Milim in. That way, one, we can get this ult out of here, or send it, but also we can send Milim without her having that magic buff and having her do a lot of damage because she's got attack gear on. So you see that Milim was doing, or Isis is now doing the same amount of damage Milim is. Milim would have done double that, probably, and that's not what we want to do here on this team. So we've got the Isis ult. Milim is still a little bit away. We have a good orb change with Aaron, and now we can use the green buff again. And then we can either send the ult or send her away. One of the two. So we're going to send Milim away. We're going to use Veldora to reset. And then we can use the crit resistance debuff again. And also the HP buff from Aaron. It doesn't mean really anything here. Well, actually it does kind of, because she's going to crit, and we'll have crit resistance, so we'll take a little bit less damage from Lumi. So I guess it is nice. And it is just another skill that's stacking towards Veldora's cap, right? That's more the reason why I used it at the time, not realizing that Lumi had crit on. So, going into turn 5, like, we're already getting very low. Very, very low on Lumi's HP to be really happy about it. And we still, technically, don't have a Milim ult, which is the big problem. So now we have to really take into account what we're sending. Obviously, sending an Isis out alt is out of the question. We cannot do that. But we need to get a Milim alt. Like, now. So we're not even going to reset with Veldora right here. We're going to get this on, and then we're going to bring her in, and then we can bring... Oh, we're going to send it. Ooh, dangerous. Alright, well, we didn't do a lot of damage, because we didn't use Veldora, right? We didn't reset specifically so we could send that alt without having doing overly amount of damage, a lot of damage. But now, we're getting very, very close, and we still have another turn. You know, the defense is going to leave on turn 7. We have an alt for Milim now. We have more than enough points to actually nuke between the Dark buff, Milim buff, and Rimuru buff. And Veldora is capped, so we technically don't have to do anything here except maybe send one orb and put another stack on, which, you know, if we send the, like, a couple orbs, we'll have enough to get back to... What do we need? 120... 175? No, we're good, actually. So we're just going to send these Aaron orbs and get her even lower. And now, on turn 7, we're going to, quote-unquote, full buff with Milim. That counter scared me, but thankfully Aaron is weak and didn't have the magic buff. Otherwise, I think we would have accidentally killed with that counter, had we sent the Aaron orbs with a magic buff and then the counter with a magic buff. Now, Dark Rimuru comes in for Isis. We're going to full buff here, so... 1, 2, 3. We're only at 50% Dark Attack, because remember, it changes at turn 8. It is not turn 8. We use Veldora twice now, because we've saved it up, and we can actually reset Shinsha's skill down to a point where we can use it one more time, which will just help us do a little bit extra damage here. So there we go, down to 35. So one more stack on it, and we just send the ult, and we do 327,000, so not 600k. But yeah, it can do it. It's just that this team makes it actually more difficult for you because of all the extra magic damage we're going to be doing the entire time. But there are 3 teams that can take on Boss Battle 2. There are other stacking teams you can use. You can use some amalgamation of a Space Milim team with a whole bunch of buffs on it. You could use pretty much anything you want, as long as you attempt to do, 600,000 damage. But if you have other team suggestions, please put them in the comments so people can see that and maybe use them instead in case they can't use anything that I've shown, or anything remotely close to it. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.